Okay, I received this piece of feedback the other day.
Someone has been in the Kool-Aid again. It's surreal to watch the emasculated male in their natural habitat.
So, this video is going to be a reaction to this. That was my initial reaction to this. And then I'll do a response because it actually seeded some other creative ideas that I thought we could explore together. And my first reaction was I laughed when I saw this. And I immediately found the irony in, especially around the surreal part, that they find it surreal. I just made a video within the last 3 or 4 days about how life has felt cartoonish to me, and I'm taking that in. And so the first part was agreement with them that I feel this way, and then the reaction. Well, maybe the reaction what you want to hear is, do I think their feedback should be considered? Am I an emasculated male? And right away, it was just ridiculous and not applicable. It's not applicable to me. The first thing is I knew it was an abstraction, which we'll talk a little bit more. I also knew that it derived from anger, or it certainly looked like it was and felt like it was coming from anger, not a place of thought out. Know that there's most likely bent reality, lies, subjective experience all wrapped up into that. And I had no interest. And the last one was, I don't care. I have, because what this comment is trying to do is trying to figure out by consensus what it means to be a male, and trying to define what it means to be a male. And I don't care. I have sat with those people. I have sat in that group a lot of my life, wanting to be a good man or a bad man or a tough man or whatever kind of man. And I probably had feelings similar to this person's feelings at parts of my life. But I've explored that part, that aspect of life of deciding, what does it mean to be a man? And I got everything I needed out of it. I'm not interested in having that discussion, being part of that discussion. I am me. I am a male, and everybody else gets to define what kind of male I am. I don't care what kind of male I am. I'm me. I'm just being me. So whatever this is, you can like it, you can not like it, you could be indifferent. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. I'm an emasculated male. To you, great. Not great too. It's like, that's good. Like, I don't need confirmation of my maleness anymore. I'm free of that. So, but what came up in the response was, like, to have a response to this, I was like, actually, this feedback has a lot to it. There's a lot of juicy stuff in it. So I wanted to explore the idea, first of all, of abstractions. And what I recognized about this comment was it was for sure an abstraction, because there's things that we don't know. We can pretty much presume that this person is coming from anger, not getting what they think a male should be. They have a predefined idea of what it is to be a man. We don't know what that is, because they're just basically giving us the information that there is such thing as an emasculated male. They know what it is, and they figured it out by watching a less than 60-second video. So they're out there. They know how to spot those emasculated males out there. But we don't know their starting point. So it's an abstraction. So I have a good example of what an abstraction is. Here's a good example. Do you know what this is? It's a spoon. And I tried to get a very neutral spoon, so everybody goes, okay, that's a spoon. So we all kind of have an agreement that says, that's a spoon. Okay? So for this purposes, that's what's happened. You see that as being a spoon. And now all of a sudden, we have this agreement And then this comes along. A spork. Now, do we have a spoon? Or is it a spork? Or is it a fork? Or is it a spoon? Like, is it still defined as some kind of spoon? But now this is when the individual's perception and subjectivity comes over, because all of us are having a subjective experience, a different subjective experience within this reality. So now we all have to decide. Some people would say, no, a spork is neither a fork or a spoon. Some people might say, oh, it's just a specialized kind of spoon. Some people would say, no, it's actually a fork. Like, they would, maybe there's angry spoon fork sides battling it out. But see, that's what the abstraction is. We start with the idea of something that we all agree upon, and then we all of a sudden change that thing. We change the parameters enough, and then all of a sudden it becomes abstract, and it becomes subjective to what we think that other thing is. And that's what this comment was, is we know what the abstraction is. We know that this person's most likely angry, and we know that they're not getting their way in the consensus of trying to define what it is to be a male. But we don't know. So that's the abstraction. That's the spork. Like, we don't know what your relativity point is. That's what the spoon is, the relativity point. We don't know where you began this. We don't know what your definition of it is. And so that's a great example of an abstraction. And it's interesting when you look at that, it's like, why do we get mad and get riled up? Let's say, because there's times in my life that if somebody had given me that feedback, I would have come back fighting. And I'm not. You should see me. I piss and I listen to Tool and Metallica and blah, blah, blah. I do listen to those bands. So that's the reaction. But what I was doing back then was reacting to, that's the thing, is we were trying to define what it was to be a man. I was trying to define what it means to be a man. So let's look at another abstraction. So this came in my creative flow was, let's look at a different kind of abstraction. Let's look at the word God. Okay, God as an abstraction. So somebody says, do you believe in God? If you're at that level, it's like, yes, I am. But then what I realize is, what do you mean by God? How do you define God? And so that's why I don't tend to use God very much in speaking, is because I see it as an abstraction. And so we have to have a discussion of what you think the nature of God is. And so with mine, that's kind of what I'm going to give an example of how I come to my definition of God, how I see God. I was thinking about the people that have the lists. And sometimes they put their lists on Facebook. They put their lists on their profiles. They put them on their bumper stickers. And they have mottos within either themselves or within their families where they say, my values are God, family, country, blah, 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 blah. What I started, the way that I see God and how I'm going to use God in this is, that's what they intend, to show that the highest importance is God. But from my perspective, I see God, and then I see whatever that they've listed underneath as that's how they represent God. So for this example, whatever they put underneath is their life. That's how they define God, is by how they define life. And that's the way that I'm going to look at it and continue this on when I look at the abstraction of God. So now I've given you the relativity point of where I'm coming from. That people, they take, if they put God first, then anything after that is just how they're defining God. And so what is it? they're defining their life, the values that they move forward and the principles that they move forward. So, perfect. Let's use that example that God represents life. God is life. And so, what do we see within life? What do we see in life that seems to be contrasty about life for all of us? There seems to be there's love, and then there's something else, which I'd say is hate. And so you could say that within life, if we defined it as life, and when I define life, I'm not talking about just living things. I'm talking about life in its totality. I'm talking about those people's values, the thoughts that they have, the interactions that they have, the experience with inorganic and organic matter, and then space, and then our thoughts, analogies, stories, everything is wrapped up in life. Well, within life, one could define, if they wanted to, that God is love. And if you wanted to, you could go, okay, well, I want to find love then within my life. And so if you wanted to do this, it's like, well, how do I define love? Well, you kind of look at characteristics that don't seem to flow with the idea of love, which could be hate. So let's follow the nature of hate. And looking like at this comment it could be seen just as a hateful comment. And so what does that say about the nature of that comment? Instead of me just going back and just doing what this person is doing, is trying to wrap me up in their little abstraction and say that and define me as this thing. And what if I go to them and say, oh, they're just a hater? And it's like, no, but what's the nature of the hate? What's the nature of their comment? Well, it's an abstraction. It comes from anger. It seems very egoic. So could it be coming from hate? Yes. But a better way to say that, if I am exploring life as God being life, then really what that comment was just lifeless. It had it just didn't have any meaning. It doesn't go, it is an expression that is going nowhere beautiful. It is trying to look at the nature of hate or lifelessness. It creates an abstraction, because what happens is you're angry, so now you can get more people in on your hate, and then you keep elevating it, you keep making the abstraction larger, and you get more people fueled up and moving, and then hate has its wheels, and it knows where it's going, it's got energy, and it can go somewhere. And so I'm in a place where I step away from lifelessness. That's why I say in the beginning of this, my reaction is, I have this doesn't offer me anything really in I should really start looking into what kind of man I am. It's ridiculous. And so what do I do with that information? Well, I'm not going to get rid of it, because it created this video, which is something beautiful. And maybe I'm saying something in here, and I'm hoping you pick something up from it. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up.